We're currently at the second last chapter of Attack on Titan. There's still quite a few major storylines and mysteries not yet resolved. Like, who's the father of Historia's child? Was Eren's end goal really destroying the world? What does Ymir want? The final chapter will be released in just a few days, and with that we'll hopefully get answers to all these questions. But while we're waiting for the conclusion of the manga, let's theorize for a bit about the finale of Attack on Titan. Today, in particular, I'd like to take a closer look at Ymir, as I think she's been a major force at play throughout the whole series. But that's something we could have not been privy to, as she's crucial to how the story will end. So, let's go over Ymir's backstory, what she could possibly want, how she could have been influencing the current events and shape the ending of the story that's still ahead of us. Throughout the story, we hear different versions of what Ymir was. To Eldians, she was their founder, who brought prosperity and progress. To Merlians, she was someone who made a pact with the devil, leading to the oppression of Marley and the world under Titan rule for 2 millennia. Frida tells us of yet another angle to Ymir. Referring to her as Krista, she tells us that she was a kind girl who always thought of others. Upon meeting with Eren in Paths, Zeke claims she's just a slave, with no will of her own. All these interpretations of Ymir's myth contradict each other, and seem very subjective depending on who's describing her. So, which one is true? The answer is all of them, and none at once. You see, in the chapter 122 of the manga, we learn Ymir's backstory. All the perspectives we got on her have some truth to them, but none of them are completely accurate. Eldians were a barbaric tribe which predated Ymir. She herself did not found it. Her story starts when the Eldian tribe attacks and plunders her village, enslaving her in the process. We can assume that the attack was concluded on a village of people with non-Eldian ethnicity, so it's likely that Ymir herself was not even Eldian. Sometime after that, she is outed as the one who let the pigs out, under the threat of gouging one eye out of every slave by King Fritz. He set her free, just to have her hunted down for sport. As she tries to flee, she stumbles upon a huge tree, in which she tries to take shelter. Instead, she falls down a hole filled with liquid. Drowning, she comes into contact with spine-like creature. It fuses with her body, and soon after, she turns into the very first Titan. Just from this fragment, we can conclude that yes, Ymir was a girl full of compassion. She likely set the pigs free, seeing how they spend their lives in a narrow enclosure just to end up eaten. She did it despite knowing the consequences of her actions, meaning that at least during her life, she did have a will of her own. Yet, after acquiring the power of the Titans, she returns to King Fritz and does his bidding. She not only develops and cultivates the land, but also attacks other nations under his command. Namely, we know that she had a hand in conquering Marley. A side note here, Marley is supposed to remind us of the Roman Empire and Eldians of the barbarians. Notice how after conquering Marley, Eldians start to dress in more Roman-like fashion, enforcing the idea that Eldians adapted some of the Merlian culture into their own. Gotta love the level of details this story has. King Fritz rewards Ymir's efforts with making her his concubine or wife. It's not really clear which one. She is referred to as Ymir Fritz. However, the king himself still calls her a slave. Together they have 3 daughters, after which the walls on Paradise were named: Maria, Rose, and Sheena. 13 years after becoming a Titan, she stops an assassination attempt on King Fritz. She takes a spear to the chest in his place and passes away. Here we get a more comprehensive look at Ymir. During her life, she did both what could be assumed as good and bad. It seems like she was a selfless girl that always put others first. Despite this, the dynamic between her and King Fritz is painted in a very unhealthy light. It reminds me of a relation between a narcissist and a codependent. Codependency is characterized by one party's need to serve the other in almost a martyr-like fashion, suppressing their emotions and needs, while narcissism includes an inflated view on self-importance and a lack of empathy for others. Of course, there's more to codependency and narcissism, but that's just the gist of it. Narcissists seek obedient people who will help them fulfill their wants and needs, disregarding their feelings, while codependents think somewhere between the lines of, if I throw everything away for you, you surely appreciate me in the end, right? This dynamic between Ymir and King Fritz is highlighted when she selflessly throws herself in the spear's way to protect him. He's indifferent to her sacrifice and demands her to rise and work more for his personal gains. It's implied that Ymir didn't heal herself as she lost her will to live. No matter how much of a good girl she was and helped the others, she was still only seen as a slave who had to do as she was told. Ymir's story is a sad one. Even in the afterlife, she's been working tirelessly, molding titans out of sand for 2000 years. However, I don't believe that she has no will of her own. You see, the first chapter of the manga is titled To You 2000 Years From Now. This title is supposed to remind us of a letter, but at this point we aren't able to understand the meaning behind it. Chapter 122, named From You 2000 Years Ago, finally gives us some explanation. It details the story of Ymir's life. We can conclude that the sender of the letter was Ymir, who lived 2000 years ago, and the recipient is Eren, who lives in the current time. Unable to part completely with the world of the living, Ymir is stuck in the world of the paths, somewhere where neither life nor death exists. Upon meeting her, Eren claims that she led him all the way there, but how exactly could she do it? Well, throughout the story we see characters experience memories that likely come from the paths. It is believed that they need to come into contact with something related to those memories in order to trigger them. However, that doesn't seem to be enough. The same trigger can cause some memories to appear one time, but sometimes it doesn't do anything at all. Oddly enough, when these memories occur, they have a significant impact on the story. And as it happens, most recently we see Galliard experience one of them. The memory he saw and the timing of it are both very suspicious, to say the least. Reiner calls out for Porco, reaching for him as he lays beaten by Eren. Porco sees the memory of his brother, Marcel, apologizing to Reiner for making him into a warrior in place of Porco, which he desperately wanted to protect. And so this happens right before Colt drags Falco before them, pleading to Zeke for his younger brother's life. Zeke turns Falco into a titan anyway, and experiencing the love Marcel had for him through the memory he just saw, Porco decides to give up his life to save Colt's younger brother. Oh, he also one-ups Reiner one last time by not letting him die, but that's besides the point. The consequences of this small memory appearing right then and there are tremendous. For one, Reiner survives, somebody who can use the armored titan efficiently and is extremely durable. Even more importantly, Falco is saved and now wields the power of a titan that just turns out to be able to fly. And as we know, both of their titans happen to be crucial during the final battle. There are more memories conveniently appearing at various points of the story, setting its course. Eren remembering Grisha's words before he blocks the cannonball. Historia seeing Ymir's death as she touches the letter she left for her. Eren seeing the memories of Grisha and Frida as he kisses Historia's hand. I'm sure there are many more that I don't remember now, but it got me thinking, was the memory Porco received and the others intentional? Could Ymir be the one who sent them to push the plot in the right direction? After all, we know she's been leading Eren to meet her in the paths, so it seems plausible that she could as well manipulate the events of the story to achieve her desired outcome. Note that I don't think she manipulates the characters, she merely shows them visions and what they will do is completely up to them. It could be that we didn't even get to see all the memories she sent. Looking back, it looks like Eren influenced some of the events himself. Yes, we do know that he's the one who sends Grisha memories, but there are also cases when he says things that seem to impact the story in a vital way. For example, he told his father that he wants to join the Survey Corps, prompting him to resume his mission to steal the Founding Titan. He told Mikasa to fight when they encountered the bandits, causing her to save the both of them. And for some less obvious ones, he criticized Ran for his attitude right in front of Reiner, indirectly calling him out to ignore his feelings and carry out his duty, likely urging him to destroy Wall Rose. He begged Historia to save the world in his stead, causing her to remember Ymir's words and going against her father. Whether these instances were caused by Ymir showing him some memories or it was his future self's doing is not clear, but it seems that they both have been meddling with the major events of the story. Influencing the outcome of the story ties directly into the now popular time loop theory. If you're not familiar with it, it's a theory in which the story of Attack on Titan as we know it isn't the first time the characters live through it. In the previous instances, whatever could end the time loop wasn't achieved. Hence, the time loop is repeated from the point when Eren wakes up from a long dream in Chapter 1. Ackermans, thanks to their special blood, are the only ones who have memories of the previous timelines, experiencing headaches when they come to a point when the current timeline diverges. Resetting the timeline and nudging the events in the right direction seems to be Ymir's doing. She sends memories to cause the characters to make other decisions than they took in the previous timelines. It's done directly to the person making the decision or to those around them, resulting in a piece of dialogue that prompts them to make a different choice this time. But why is there a time loop in the first place? And how can it be ended? I think that ending the time loop requires two things. 1. Drawing out the centipede from the Founding Titan and killing it, thus ending the history of the Titans. 2. Setting Ymir free from the suffering she endured in life, finally allowing her to find peace. For 2,000 years, she's been waiting for somebody who would finally see her, not as a slave or a god, but as a person. Her life was tragic, where she experienced no joy and was never even seen as a human being. It seems to me that what she wants is one simple thing. She wants to experience a normal life, free of curses and pain, to feel cherished and maybe even loved. Whether she'll achieve it by only watching as our characters experience those very things for themselves, or she ends up being reborn to have another shot in life. Or maybe she resets the timeline one last time, making it so she never became the first Titan. She might even be sacrificed, like her Norse mythology namesake, to create a new world. The point still stands. Only when Ymir is freed from her suffering can the time loop end. This is where Eren's role comes into play. Eren is the first person who wields the Founding Titan that is not a part of the royal family. He is the only one who can free the world from the Titans and Ymir from her fate, thanks to his unyielding desire for freedom. After witnessing Eren's resolution, she likely started the time loop, trying to piece the outcome of the story where this can be achieved. Once the events align to give him the opportunity, Eren will finally bring an end to the world which Titans rule, and the 2,000-year-old story of a little girl seeking comfort from the cruel life she had to live. But make no mistake, Attack on Titan as a whole is not a story which can have a happy ending. Leave a comment, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.